The following show and its content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
That's right. Welcome to the Couch Live, everybody. Oh, my God. There's so much going on, Trinity. There I am. Welcome to the Couch Live. You're on the... I am the street-certified dope Dr. Lui Delgado here with my partner, the Dharma Guy Trinity Phillips. Trying to turn up everybody as I'm talking. Trying to get everybody's microphone up. Like I said, you're here on WPSN99.com, the problem-solving network. And it's a special show today, Trinity. So I came in late. So my apologies.
No, not you.
Don't start. Don't start. Don't be a hater. Don't be bad. Dana and I were watching movies. All caught up on The Walking Dead, I think.
Really?
Yep, all caught up.
I think I'm like an episode or two behind.
We were.
I was like a whole season behind, then I caught up very quickly.
No, you're not missing nothing.
This is what you guys do in your spare time?
That's what we do.
Either that or we play Red Dead.
You mean we hang out with our wives and spend quality time? Is that what you're asking, Chris? Because, yes, that's exactly what we're doing. So let me introduce everybody, because this is, we joke around a lot on the show, but sometimes we get real serious, and today's one of those days where it's going to be a little serious because we're talking about two moms, two horrible losses of two young people that left us a little too soon, and two missions that got created from that. So you have these two families tremendously impacted in a negative way, yet took that loss and that pain and kind of redirected that energy, and they're there for you out there that right now are listening, or you're sitting there and you're in your own struggles of your daily life, but this is all happening around you, like it was happening in their family, it was happening in their community, it was happening in their schools. And so these two mothers have taken what they know is happening in every community out there, and they want to share it with you, and they hopefully want to impact somebody out there to maybe think about this, maybe do something about it. And it is not just about addiction today, because one was more impacted by substance and the other was more impacted by depression. And one could really say that everybody's really impacted by some sort of depression or pain internally. And that kind of leads a lot of us out there that have had substance use issues to use. So it's a real important show today. So let me introduce everybody. So first of all, Trinity, my co-host. Now you can see him. There he is.
Yes,
Trinity.
sir. What's up?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well.
I noticed you're in a tank top. And here, wait, I want to get real serious, get right into it real quick, but I did notice that it's like 40 degrees outside, and you're in a tank top.
It was colder on Tuesday for Dharma time, and I was still in a tank top.
It's 40 degrees in here, too.
Yes.
Yeah, let's...
hence the scarves.
Yeah, he puts the air conditioner on...
Actually, I didn't even touch the AC today. It was already set to like 72 when I came in, but I guess it was already colder.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot colder.
I didn't have to touch it.
It's a lot colder. So let's introduce everybody. We have Chris and Susan here with us. So let's start with you, Susan. Can you tell everybody that's listening, and to everybody that may be watching this either on YouTube or on now Facebook Live over there, they can't see me, but oh well, they see you guys, and you guys are the heroes of the show. So Susan.
Cuter.
A lot cuter.
I'd agree
true.
with that.
No
yeah, especially the one in the middle. But Susan, who are you? And you are the mother of Victoria. So give us just a little synopsis of that so we can get started.
Well, Victoria was sexually assaulted at age 18, right after she graduated from high school. And after the sexual assault, she was prescribed lots of different things, benzos and Ambien. Ambien she became addicted to, and she started misusing that first and eventually led to heroin. And she died of an overdose earlier this year, January 22nd. She was 22 years old. So 3.5 years we fought the battle, and the day she died was actually a relief that she was not in pain anymore. And I knelt down. I was allowed to go in the crime scene, and I kissed her goodbye, and I promised her, I said, baby, you didn't die in vain, I promise. And I had no idea what those words meant.
Wow. So you didn't know what you were really saying it for. You just knew that
But
it wasn't ending right there, is what
no,
you were saying.
And I was on a mission from day one. I was speaking even before her funeral. I had already been interviewed by the news. I had posted her obituary acknowledging the addiction and the struggle, and that I had lost her. Within an hour of kissing her goodbye, I posted on Facebook that I lost her to an overdose. I immediately knew I couldn't hide this. This was not okay. And I was speaking at the police department that Friday before the funeral. And actually 2 nights after her funeral, I was called in the middle of the night to a neighbor's house who was, her daughter was overdosing. And that led to a State of Addiction television that has been nominated for an Emmy this February. The joint stories of the 2 girls. But it's just been a mission from day one, and I had no idea. I've been called to do this. I didn't choose it.
I'm going to ask a little bit more about the family scenario before and afterwards in a second, but let's introduce Chris. Chris is also here with us, and Chris, you were the mother of Hudson. And Hudson, we also lost Hudson, so you want to briefly explain who you and Hudson are?
Yeah, so Hudson was 20 years old, and he had traveled all over the world studying sustainability and solar energy, and he was on a mission to save the earth. And his principal called him the next Elon Musk. He was such a forward thinker, creating hovercrafts and just all these things that, other kids were going to school and doing whatever, and he was like, I'm going to change the world. I'm picking up trash this weekend. I'm doing all this. He was doing all these things, and then he went to college. And at college, a lot of kids take Adderall for finals and things like that, and I believe that's kind of what started him down the road that he went down, is that he would have extreme highs and lows. And so he went to the doctor and said, I'm feeling depressed. I'm having anxiety. I'm having mood swings. I can't sleep. My mind won't shut off. And I believe it all started from that, and so slowly he, is going to the doctor and getting these prescriptions for all these different things. And when it was all said and done, he had 6 different prescriptions. And I think at that point you don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
But, from what he has said to his friends and things like that, it's like he couldn't shut his mind off. And I think he felt like no matter what he did, it wasn't getting better. With or without the meds, he couldn't shut off his mind. His mind was telling him things, and he couldn't shut it off. And essentially, July 26th, it was 2 weeks after his 20th birthday. Spent all day in the boat with his friends, having a great day, and they left, and it was within the hour he took his own life. And like you, I was the one to find him. I was the last one to see him. And the 3 days before this all happened, he was walking out my door, and I was like, he was in a great mood, and I was like, Hudson, we got to figure out how to get you off these meds. It's just too much for your body. And he's like, I know. He's like, and when I figure this out, he said, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to travel to schools and speak to kids around the world about how to get through this anxiety and depression, things that I'm going through. So now that's what I do.
Wow.
I go and I speak to high school kids, college and middle school youth groups about anxiety, depression, coping skills, like how to cope with, like, if you feel like you're getting anxiety or anxious for a test, what can you do besides taking Adderall because all the other kids are doing it? So just like Susan, it's become my mission. I didn't plan on it. It's just started happening. And schools start saying, will you come speak to our kids? Will you, parents start calling me, will you, this is happening with my son. The parents are going through a lot. The kids are going through a lot. And I just see all these people struggling. And it's like I can't not do something. It's just like you, Susan, right? It's like
I know.
I have to help because I know when I speak to the kids, I tell them, I say, I'm standing here today so your mother never has to.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we're doing this so no other mother ever has to do this, what we're doing.
Wow, two strong stories. So you see, Trinity, why they're both here, and I put them both on either side of you. So you're surrounded by a lot of love.
I couldn't be surrounded by anything better, so I'm good.
Right.
I feel very loved right now.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, Hudson is the one speaking at these schools, just like he said he was going to be speaking, and we're going to get more into how that is more true than just cliche anyway. How it's more true, and we're going to get into how you did that. I haven't had a chance to look at it because I was driving and I was late, and we'll deal with that one later. Louis' problems, but anyway, so let's get back into it. So Trinity,
yes,
you had a chance to meet them a little bit before the show.
Very
You
briefly,
just met
yeah.
them. Yeah. Do you have any initial questions before I kind of start going into a little bit more of the stories that they kind of already shared? Anything that you wanted to bring out?
For me,
sure?
first, I want to hear more first because we haven't had a chance to speak yet. Actually,
Yeah, we haven't even
since,
talked about it.
You had a chance to talk to them, so I'm kind of learning all this as we go. So I'd like to hear more.
I just wanted to make sure because I know sometimes
I'm
when we
intrigued.
have, sometimes when we have guests and stuff like that, I feel like I don't go to you enough to ask you what you had to say.
Whatever.
I want you to feel more love.
I get all my talking out
I'm
on
giving you more
Tuesdays, man. So.
Feeling the Trinity love.
There you
I
go,
wanted to give
man.
more love. That's
there
all.
you go.
Anyway, all right, so Susan, when this happened, this is what year is this again?
2018.
2018. So
10 months.
it's so fresh, and Chris, yours is also
2017.
2017.
July.
So it's all fresh. So this is all fresh, and yet when you guys say this, I could see you feeling it, but you're still able to say it publicly. Now, there's a lot of people that I know that have lost children. I speak to a lot of people. Unfortunately, being in the business of addiction and recovery and treatment, I unfortunately speak to a lot of moms who have lost children. More moms than fathers. I think the fathers tend to turtle up a lot more than the moms do. The moms tend to do the missions. Not that the dads aren't present, but they just tend to be less vocal. Or they stay in that anger a little bit more, the fathers, frustrated and all that stuff. But you guys feel it too. So let's talk a little bit about that because there's a lot of moms out there right now. There's at least some that I know that are listening that have also lost. And they're stuck in that pain. They're stuck in that loss. And I hate to use the word stuck even because it's like, how are you not in there? Like, you're not going to get over it.
No.
Like, there's no getting over it.
No.
Well, that's the one thing you and I always talk about. Like, that's the one thing that we don't ever want to even go into that headspace.
Right.
No.
So.
And it's the one thing that allows me to always know that as much as I love my animals, and I don't want to change the subject,
Sure.
but I want you guys to really understand what I'm saying here. Don't hate on me for it, but just understand what I'm saying. We joke. Trinity and I joke a lot about if we ask for money to save a life, via Facebook or somewhere else.
Yeah.
We raise very little money.
Yeah.
If we ask for money for a funeral expenses or after someone dies, we can raise a hell of a lot more money.
Yeah.
And then if we ask for a puppy or a cat, then the numbers go through the roof and you can raise millions of dollars.
Puppies, cats, or cancer.
That's right. So and the cancer more after they're dead than before, while they're alive. So the what I'm saying, and the reason I bring that up is because in these losses that we have, and we say that we all care. Like, I have dogs, right? I love my dogs, but I've lost dogs. So, and even though it hurt, and even though I was in pain, and even though it was hard to bury them and all that stuff, it's over. I mean, I don't feel that pain every day. I don't wake up every day and go, oh, Sami, Tiffany. I don't have the visions of my puppies in my head like that because what do? We go out and get another dog, and that is the one space that really another one does replace it.
Sure.
In a lot of ways because you put a lot of that energy and love into that next dog. What I'm saying is I'm not a bad person, but for some reason I can move on from that. But yet a child, I've never, ever, ever met a parent that has lost somebody and was able to get over that loss like over a pet. No matter how loving they were to their pets, no matter how close they were to their pets, you don't wake up every morning and feel that loss of that pet the same way you feel that loss of that kid. That kid is always in your life. Your child is always in your life. And I think the reason I say this is because I want you to understand how hard it really is for those of you that have never lost a child. And I don't even know, but it's just from communicating with them for so many years of how hard it is to stand up in front of you and risk all the judgment of oh, then what did you do wrong? Because my kid's okay. My kid's not having the problems your kid has. My kid didn't, want to leave this earth, or my kid didn't get, heavy into drugs. So, there's judgment that you risk by being a parent and going out there in front of people and saying this. So let's talk a little bit about that risk and get the elephant out of the room right away.
And it's not just other people judging you; you judge yourself.
Correct.
What could
well,
I
that's
have done?
worse.
What could, one time, it was fresh in my memory that she came bouncing on the bed while I was watching the Seinfeld episode. She wanted to tell me something about her day, and she just jumped in there, Mom, and I'm like, shh.
Yeah.
I'd seen that episode 5 times. How could I? And then it silenced her, and then she moped away, and I'm like, baby, come back. She wouldn't come back. And I didn't chase her. I didn't get out of the bed and go and get her. I had broke my back and neck, so I was disabled.
Mm-hmm.
But she came to me, to my room and my space. And it doesn't matter how rich, how poor, how black or white. Everyone's done it to their child.
Mm.
Some of us get a second chance, and that's what I want to tell moms is you have the chance right now to make a difference. If your child comes to you for anything, whether they're excited or sad or mad or angry or hurt, stop what you're doing. That's so critical. If I had a do-over, my do-over was that every time she said Mom, I'd stop.
That's what you remember.
That would be my do-over.
You have that memory of that,
Yes.
watching that Seinfeld episode and not stopping.
And not stopping. How could something so stupid, so irrelevant to life, that moment that your child wanted to share something, and it could have been a joyous thing, it could have been an achievement, I'll never know because I never got that moment back.
Right.
That's really important thing to say too, because now with our phones, everyone having their phone, your kids come up to you and you're on your phone. Like, hang on, I'm updating my Facebook. You're going to have to wait with what, you see parents at the park on their phone, and the kids are coming up and they're like on their phone and dinner and and it's
missing the moment.
Right. And then, going forward, it's like we went to a friend's wedding and you're sitting there going, I'm never going to get that with him. You're never going to, I have 2 daughters and they say, what are we going to tell our kids about Uncle Hudson? And it's like those moments where it's like the future that you're missing out. Every wedding you go to, you can't help but think,
never have a baby.
He's not going to have a wedding.
You see him everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, and you see people out with their kids, and I always gravitate toward teenage boys because it's like Hudson was 20 years old, I'm like, oh, you're 20? What are you guys doing tonight? My daughter's like, Mom, leave the kid alone. I'm like, I just I would adopt every 20-year-old kid that I could. Every time I take a flight, there's a 20-year-old kid sitting next to me, and we end up talking, and I get off the plane. I'm like, oh, I got to have you meet my daughter. She's waiting at the gate, and here I come. Look, this is my new friend from the plane. My daughter, oh, Mom, really? I'm like, it's like because I miss him, his presence, and that the teenage boy, all the funny stuff and things he used to do, and it's like you can't get it back. And same thing you said, there's all these things from the past you wish you would have done, and then there's all the future that you wish could happen.
Right.
And, as a mom going through this, I know other moms who have medicated themselves, for 5 years after the loss of a child and missed out on 5 years of their own life because it's almost like, and Susan, you probably feel the same way. It's like almost like it's not okay to be okay. Like you're out having fun, or you're at a party, or you're,
I'm being told I'm going to crash.
You're having a great time doing something, and then you're like, are people judging me because I'm smiling in my pictures, because I'm having fun, because I'm doing different things?
But we have to celebrate their life. I won't mourn her memory. I have to celebrate her life by who can I save, who can I impact, who can I change.
Well, you know who you're really impacting, and this is what I'm thinking. I think you're impacting a lot more of the moms than the other kids, to be honest with you. With that, what you said earlier, I think there's a lot of parents out there that just think it's never going to happen to me. Forget
I
the young
thought
people that are partying and they're saying it's never going to happen to me.
Right.
There's a lot of moms and dads out there saying it's never going to happen to me. You know what I mean?
Been
And
there.
so you are impacting them because, and this is the reason I wanted to talk about this, because on this end, everybody always thinks that when I'm counseling about the young person that's gone. Well, that person's gone. They're done. That's over.
They're not.
But what's
They're
not
here.
a
They're
no.
with
I
us.
mean, I'm talking about that life. You can't go help them anymore.
Right.
But who's left behind, the destruction that you leave behind when you die prematurely, the destruction that you leave is horrible. You may think, if I leave, then everybody's going to be better off, or, who's really going to miss me anyway, and all the other stuff that might go in your mind. Because this stuff went through my mind, even though I was not suicidal. The stuff that went through my mind because I was partying like a madman, and I figured, well, this is the way I want to go out.
Yeah.
I was thinking about me, but I wasn't thinking about how much destruction is going to be left behind for you guys. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because the moms and dads out there, all too often we have divorce after this. The families do not normally stick together because of the pain. Right. The pain is that horrible that people start looking at each other of, you're not suffering the way I'm suffering. Mm-hmm. You're not reacting the way I want you to react. And then you kind of go in your own head, in your own space, in your own mission. So how did the family react to your loss, Susan?
Well, first there's 72,000 that died in 2017 alone.
Okay.
Plus. That's 72,000 moms, 72,000 dads, 72,000 siblings, 72,000 children. There are people that have children that died. There are 72,000 moms and dads. It ripples all out.
That's a lot.
To the entire church friends and
Best
coworkers
friends.
and schoolmates
Mm-hmm.
and teachers and everyone in the society has been touched by this.
Right.
So I don't really think about how what I'm doing is impacting anyone. I'm just trying to save someone. So whatever I can do. However, I had some gentleman call me and say that I've been watching you and you're the only reason I didn't relapse when my wife cheated on me.
Wow.
And so you would think this man, I've obviously
you don't know who it's gonna
impacted
be.
a total stranger. Mm-hmm. So if I can touch one child, if I can get one mom in the elevator yelling at her child to say, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Just love them where they're at. Don't judge. I don't know who judges me, but it's just really not important to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's important to me is that I celebrate her and I honor her memory every single day. And I know you have to do that with Hudson.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
Yeah, it's like, some days I think, I'm going to text Hudson and tell him this. It's like, he seems so present. And I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like, because I'm out and what you kind of touched on earlier, when I go into a school, I start out with his speech that he did in high school, and so he's actually speaking.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like I keep hearing his voice over and over again. He's talking. He's like, never give up, keep going, fall forward. And so I keep hearing his voice. And then he seems so present. All these things keep happening and all these connections and all these places I keep ending up. It's like he's just following me around doing all this stuff.
No, he's not following you. He's leading you.
Yeah.
He's leading you. Tori,
Yeah.
I take her paintings and her artwork. She wrote a poem called The Voice of Addiction. It wasn't her talking about addiction. It was addiction talking to her and telling her she's a stupid child. I got you. And I wish I had brought the poem with me. But they are speaking. They are working because every element of their journaling and their speeches and their works, that is that's the message we're sharing and spreading.
And they left a big message. Like Hudson left a whole, he had his nonprofit written out that he wanted, and he didn't leave it. It wasn't like his last wishes. It was over the years of him doing all of his work. Right. And he's like, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to call it Our Green Future. I want to start a solar farm. He's getting ready to have a solar farm in Australia dedicated to him. Yeah. And it's like he set everything up.
Right.
And I have all these things that he left for me to do to actually go complete his mission.
I'm completing her bucket list too.
Yeah.
It's crazy how we're living. We're celebrating them.
Yeah. Well,
and that's what you have to do, celebrate them. You can't.
You do.
If I sat around every day and thought about the bad stuff and he's not here and all this stuff, you can go down a rabbit hole that I could see where people
and you
could
stay
get
on
in
the
a
couch.
and people get in a really bad place mentally. Because it's like you spend all the time thinking of the what ifs
right.
and the past is what takes you down. You know, so I try to stay present in the moment and keep, like you said, I've had people reach out to me that have been impacted by his story, and it's kids, it's parents, it's adults, it's everyone you can imagine.
We put on our boxing gloves, Louie.
Yeah, you saw that. You know what you just reminded me, and this is weird. I just had a revelation that I never thought about before. When I moved here to Florida, I'd only been a year and a half clean. And I really thought I was dying. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. If you would have told me that I was going to live past 18, I would have told you it's not going to happen. There's no way. And then I lived to 19. I got clean at 19. I was like, there's no way I'm going to live past it. I don't know how I'm going to make it. But I have a box of poems, and you know that are like lyrics, but they're poems. You know, I guess that's how you would call them. That box, and then my box of certain things. And I've always kept it. So when you guys are talking, I'm actually thinking now, wow, we might set that up in a very weird psychological way. Those of us that are in so much pain or dying, it's like we keep certain things. And like in that box, if you would open that box, I'm just imagining my family going through that box the way you guys are going through, you know, Victoria and Hudson stuff, and kind of figuring out, you know, what to do with it.
Louis, that's crazy.
You would have read all my writings and all my plans. And in which weird is when I read that writing, as much as I didn't think I was in depression, because I would have told you I'm partying, I'm having a great time, my writings are all about pain. I mean, you could see the pain in my writings.
She, Toria, her password, Forever Young. She died at 22. She'll never have a wrinkle. She'll never have a gray hair. She had tattooed on her back, "Nothing gold can stay." Well, I called her my golden child. It was
That's
a Robert
what I called
Frost.
Hudson.
Yeah, Robert
called him the
Frost.
golden child.
That's what they're called. I'm called actually in my family the golden child.
Yeah, she had all these awards. She'd been to Washington D.C. and appointed by the mayor, and Teacher's Choice Award, and the lifeguard, and all these things. But she was telling me "Nothing Gold Can Stay," that Robert Frost poem. I used that in her obituary, and it chronicled her life. A flower, but it blooms only for an hour. Then it turns to grief. And that's what her life did. So it's so critical. But she actually said, "Mom, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to die
I
young."
believed it too.
And you know, when she said that to me, I'll never forget. I was turning on our street, and she said, "Mom, you know I'm going to die. I'm not going to live much longer." And I knew it. I couldn't say, "Oh, don't say that, Toria." I knew it.
Wow.
I felt it. And she said, "Mom," I another time she said, "I don't want to live," and I said, "Baby, I love you and I don't want you to die, but that's me, selfish." I said, "But when God's ready for you, I promise you I will be fine, and I'll be happy that you're not in pain anymore." So I remembered that on that day that I kissed her goodbye. I said, "Baby, I'm so happy for you.
Wow.
I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you." And how do you tell your daughter that died of a heroin overdose that you're proud of them? Well, I'll tell you how, because I was proud. She fought. She got clean 13 months. She couldn't do it, even during that cleanliness of recovery for 13 months. There was so much pain and so much hurt that I recognized in her eyes that she was never going to be okay.
Yeah.
She was not. So when she was okay is when God took her, and I knew that.
You know, that's a scary thing to think about. I'm going to pause there for a second because I want to make sure the right takeaway is taken with such a strong statement. Because even though that is a way that we can all heal for losing Victoria, and that you're right, Victoria had that pain and it's taken away. I know people right now that kind of say those statements, and I don't want them to go. So I want you to understand as well is that there's a lot of people out there that it may have taken a lot of years, and you have to change the way you view things tremendously. I kind of say half jokingly, but very seriously, when I speak to people that are suffering a lot of pain, I say it took me 4 years to even like this. It took me 4 years to even like sobriety, to even like what I was doing, even though I was already with Dana. Even though she made me so much happier than I'd ever been in my life, and I had so much promise, and I wasn't using anymore or anything like that, but I was still very frustrated and angry inside. And the reason I say the 4 years is because I think some people out there expect that, you know, a year, maybe it's a year, and I'm still sad and depressed. So realistically, it's never going to go away. 2 years, and it's never going to go away. 3 years, it's never going to go away. Well, you know what? Like Victoria, I thought it was never going to go away, but it did. And so I want to make sure that that person out there that is suffering with such horrible tragedy in their mind and such depression that first of all, I don't think that anyone's really dead. I'm not going anywhere. I always tell Dana I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to die. I'm going to be here. So get used to it, because it's just my belief system, and everybody has theirs. But what I'm saying is that please stick around much longer than you. Then right when you think you're at the edge, just one more day, and so whatever you have to do for that one more day, because I think that we would all rather have her here, and rather have you here than not here. And I just want to make sure that takeaway is there. But I get it. I get what you're saying, but I also can see how I would read that just a little bit differently if I'm in pain at the moment.
And I absolutely agree. And there's. If anything, if I could have her back,
right?
Oh my gosh! Everyone wants her back. And I know, but Jesus died on the cross, and God could have taken him off.
That's where I think we need to go with it. I think where we need to go with it is all right. So here's their loss, but they, like we're saying, they didn't die. Well, they didn't die because look at the missions that get created, and sometimes I'm not trying to martyr. Is martyrize a word, Trinity? Is it martyrize, or how do you say
it's
that?
It's our word.
It's my word now. You know what I'm saying, people. You know what I'm saying. English is my second language. You got this. All right. So in other words, we're not trying to make them martyrs, but we are saying that from their passing, so many more lives can be saved.
Absolutely.
So that is where we're at now.
Right.
So that's where we're at.
That's
so
the way we have to look at it, right?
Right.
Because that's how Susan looks at it to help her heal from what happened, right?
Right.
And so someone struggling, definitely like you said, it could be 4 years, 5 years, just one day at a time. Right. Tomorrow could be, I have a inspirational posts I do for Hudson's page, and it's like just because things might be bad right now, 5 minutes from now, everything might change.
Yeah.
Right.
You may meet someone that inspires you, or you may meet the love of your life, or all of a sudden you're going to feel the light that's come from the darkness from what whatever you're doing, addictions.
Yeah.
So it can turn just like that. So but as moms who have lost someone, like, we have to see the bright side and the good side of something so bad, because that's the only way to handle it.
Yes.
Because otherwise you would just be in this horrible depression ourselves, right? But
well, there's no playbook.
Right. Yeah.
There's no playbook you can go by.
Yeah. Right.
Of how to deal with this.
What to do, and every single person reacts differently to grief. I mean, especially the loss of a child, which, in my opinion, is the absolute worst grief you can have, because it's just
we talk about on the show all the time.
natural evolution of life. It should not happen, you know. And like us, we never thought it would happen to us. And just by what you say about Victoria and how Hudson was, when I go speak to adults, I say, you know what? These are kids that, like, Hudson had it all. Right. He had it all. And if you were like, who's the very last person that would take his life, it would be Hudson. Right? So parents that think, well, it'll never happen to my kid because they're the cheerleader, they're the football player, they're a straight A student, they're going to college. It doesn't make them any different than the kid who's sad in the corner. It's not like, oh, my kid is this high achieving kid, this will never happen to me, because our kids were high achieving kids who had their whole future ahead of them, and something hit them and took them back.
Well, tell us about Hudson then. You said he had it all. Tell us about the all. Tell us the all.
Well,
he was artistic. He was musical, right?
Oh yeah, he was beyond musical. He was from a young age. He could shred a guitar like. He was unbelievable. He would yell, "Hey, Hudson, learn this song!" Like, he could just had the fast fingers, and he could do anything. He did the Rubik's Cube without looking. We had videos of him.
Yeah, I had to remove the stickers.
Looking the other way, solving the Rubik's Cube. He actually did a talent show at his school, hula hooping and solving the Rubik's Cube at the same time.
Oh, my God.
On stage, and then playing guitar and drums. He was in marching band. He played lacrosse. He was in the student government. He had good grades. He was traveling everywhere. Every single person at his funeral would come up and say he was my best friend. He made every single person that knew him feel like they were his best friend. Like, who even does that? I mean, everyone that knows you, are they like, oh yeah, he's my best friend? Like, like,
No, they just don't even
they're
take
like,
my
he
phone
doesn't even
calls.
like me. No, it's like, but he had that ability to make, everyone
special.
felt like they were special around him. Everyone, adults, kids, didn't matter. So, he was a water skier and tall,
So what was wrong
and
with him?
handsome.
I was gonna say, what was wrong with him? What was wrong with him?
What's his
No.
story? No, yeah.
Well, no, but
I mean, did he have a pimple in the middle of his forehead? Did he have a big
Yeah.
nose?
Now,
Did he
if
have,
you asked
did he have no
him,
lips
he'd be
like me?
he'd
I had
be
no
like,
lips.
He had acne, and he was,
Yeah, like what
his
would he
abs
say?
weren't-
What would he say? Because you're speaking from to my mom.
All
I'm
the
perfect.
moms are like,
I know
yeah.
my mom thinks I'm perfect too. So
Right.
but
Well,
what
the point is
what was
that
he suffering with?
Well, the point is that for parents who think they have this kid who's doing all
Right.
the things that kids do that are for their future.
Yeah.
That's how Victoria sounds too. Like
Yes.
they had their whole
High achievers.
right.
Yeah.
And they knew what they were going to do. He had no question what he was going to do with his life.
Right.
Everybody knew. He knew he was going for all of his goals. And the struggle, like I said, started when he went to college. Like his high school career, I call it, because it was a full-time job
Right.
for him and me. His high school, he had the time of his life. And those were like the best years of his life and my life with him too. And I'm so glad that I went to everything with him, and the marching band trips and the lacrosse games, concession stand. I did everything with him, not knowing that this was a limited time with him,
Right.
But then when he went to college is when everything started. And every time he would come back from college, he'd be a little less Hudson.
Right.
He'd be a little bit less happy. In high school, I'd say, him and all of his buddies, his friends, they always were doing the lake days and stuff. And they're just high on life. They were all happy and having fun. And, he never got in trouble for drinking or doing anything like that. So, but when he went to college, he wanted to be in a frat and do college life, and was studying engineering. And that's when he started taking the Adderall. And then drinking it with Red Bull. That's why when you're like, you're drinking a Monster drink.
No, I drink. But that's why I don't drink Red Bull. I drink
That-
Monster. Red Bulls are deadly.
Right. So Red Bull and Adderall together.
Yeah, horrible.
Yeah. And then that to study. But that brought him to these highs and lows and
Right.
headaches and not sleeping. And it's like, that's what every time he'd come back, he'd be a little more jumpy and a little more, had that look in his eyes that wasn't, he was always bright-eyed and super excited about life. And it just started getting less and less every time he would come back. And it was 2 years he was at college, where he was coming
Right.
back and forth.
Well, you guys
So-
know how. Look, as parents, I get asked all the time. Like you guys get asked it all the time. I'm sure at the end of every interview on the news, they will say, "Well, what do you want to tell parents? Like, what do you want to tell people to look out for?" They always want to know warning signs. I think the first book I contributed to was a parenting book. God, I wish I remembered it. It was Teresa Langston wrote it. Parenting Without Pressure. Ooh, I can't believe I pulled that out of my memory. Parenting Without Pressure. There's a little part in there that has, what to look for if your kid is having a drug or alcohol problem. I think I was like 22 or 23 when I wrote that little piece for her book.
Yeah.
But that's the question I always get asked. All right, so
Yeah.
so you guys were there. So what is the little thing? So what am I supposed to think? I better not send my kid to college, or don't send him to band camp. You know what I mean? They always want to think. Well, you do change friends. They start talking a certain way. There's things, but not all the signs are very visible.
Right.
Yeah.
And
What's-
not all signs mean, one sign alone
Right.
doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's an accumulation of
noticed
a
It's
bunch of
what's
signs.
not them.
So-
it's,
Yes.
it's whatever they are.
Yes, thank you.
When
Yes.
they change.
Yes.
Right.
Recognize their change. Get involved and just and try to pull them out and try to see what's going on.
It's that
Just
look in their eyes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's being intuitive to your child.
But instead of telling instead of us talking to the parents of what for them to do, here's the way I like to phrase it, because I like where you're going with that. What's different in your child? Like, what are the signs that Victoria that you could see now going back? Because we can always play Monday quarterback, right? So what are the signs that you saw? Because maybe that might resonate in somebody. Just what are the signs that you now could go back and go, that was a sign, that was a sign, that was a sign? Is there something that you can pinpoint? It's still difficult, isn't it?
It is. And
that
there's
really
not
is the
one
point.
thing, and I'm in my book. I'm chronicling her life
Right.
along the buildup of a hurricane, and in childhood there were her hurts and traumas
Right.
and bullying and somebody stepping on her feet at cheerleading in
Mm-hmm.
line to the water fountain, and knowing that she would say, "Don't do that," or "Why did you do that to me?" And I know that she even when she was raped, she looked at the rapist and said, "Why did you do that to me?" It's just their pains are different, but knowing that the sign all along, because even when she was a little baby learning to crawl and her father would push her over repeatedly, and I'm like, why are you doing this? She's so innocent. And praise her for getting up on all fours. And he's, I'm making her tough. You don't make somebody tough by beating them down. and so
sounds like my childhood there, right?
Really.
I got thrown in the water and told to swim. Follow the dog.
Follow the dog.
Is that your dad or your mom that did that?
I'm not saying.
I don't know very many moms that do that.
I mean, it's
right, Pop?
everything.
Not saying Pop.
Life is hard. Don't make it harder. Don't make it harder.
But I think
I'll tell you signs that
Go
I
ahead.
saw.
What are signs?
Well, one is the look in his eyes changed. Like when I would look at him, he was less present with me and kind of looking away and kind of having a harder time making eye contact. And then also he would get mad about things that he never got mad at. You know, it's all of a sudden he was like agitated and defensive and these things that were never his personality. Like you said, when you know how your child acts and all of a sudden they change. Right. That's, little things like that to walk out for.
Irritability.
To watch, But he was irritable about things and just his eye contact was changing.
Right. And I think for those of you that are listening or watching or however you're tuning into this, I think that's really the takeaway on that particular part of it is you don't just go by a list of what someone else wrote, because those things may be different for your kid, and sometimes you can overplay your hand and you see things where they don't exist. So the real important thing is know your loved one, whoever it is, whether it's your wife, your husband, your parent, your child. When they start doing their changes, when something's different about them, something's just not the same about them, the connectivity keeps people here. We do know that. So somehow when you start seeing them not be them, is to figure out what kind of connectivity do we need to now start putting in place, because or overdo. You know what I mean? Because there's some disconnection happening. I can see them either disconnecting from themselves, from other people, or from me. And so that I think that piece I think is the same all across the board, is that connectivity. Because for me to die, I had to be disconnected. And as much as I try to disconnect from my family and I went far away, I went thousands of miles away. I lied. I did whatever I could do to disconnect. The only thing that really kept me here was because of them. No matter what kind of anger or frustration I may have had towards them, it was that connectivity. I could not do it on my own. So I couldn't do what Hudson did. I could do what Victoria did. I could drug myself to death, something like that. But I could not physically do it like what Hudson did. Because the connectivity was still there. So that's the danger part for anyone out there still using or suffering or suffering from depression, is that some of you are still around even though you've wanted to hurt yourself for many years because something is keeping you here. Some connectivity. I would say do more of that. Whatever's keeping you here, do more of that. It's worth it. But also, if you're doing it the way I or Victoria was doing it, be very careful, because you're using to the point where you're really not caring whether it works or not works. Right. You're not really using to party anymore. You're kind of just using to kind of float away or just to fade away.
Well, drugs and alcohol. I mean, any addictive substance does take away that connectivity.
Takes away who you are to you.
Yeah, it's like your mind, body, and soul are now separate entities. Right. So it's like your mind thinks, if I do something, well, it's not going to affect my body because I'm really not present there. Right. Because any substance you start putting in your body takes you away from yourself.
Yes.
Right. So that's like a big cutoff in the connectivity.
And the problem is you always come down.
Right.
The problem is that
down is below.
Yes,
down
it's
is
not normal.
Equilibrium.
No,
down is way below equilibrium. So you have to use just to stay normal.
Yes, that's that's how we got addicted in the first place.
Absolutely.
That no matter how much we use, you wouldn't even get normal anymore.
Right.
And that's when you know you're in a bad spot. When you start using, and no matter how much you use, you can't even get to normal.
Right.
That's when you feel helpless and hopeless. You say, well, now even that's not working.
Right.
And so the key really is, and there's two parts. One, we're talking to and we don't know who we're talking to. So I'm not even going to try to pretend that I'm talking to somebody who's maybe suffering or dying or in depression. In my head, I think we're talking to a lot more of the parents who are around to say, there's something You just want to do everything possible now so that you don't have regret later or any self-doubt or any blame of yourself, because you have to keep going.
And love them where they're at.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. We have the stigma.
Yeah.
I realized later that Toria would get really excited about some stupid little accomplishment that was like, I do that every day. I got up. Who cares? But to them, being addicted and being clean and just getting up and just putting your clothes on to get out the door is an accomplishment. And to them, it's huge.
You just kind of mimic something that one of our good friends says. Daryl Strawberry he says that a lot. He says, you got to love me where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People, he didn't feel like people were loving where he was at. They were loving who they thought they knew about him.
Yeah.
The icon he was. Everything else. Like, how could you with so much money? How could you with so much fame? How could you? And they weren't loving him where he was at. They were, he felt, and he was struggling to love himself where he was at. So when you're struggling and they're struggling, and they're not doing it. So that's a really good point, what you just said.
And you're hard to love. It's hard to love yourself at that point.
Yeah.
Because of shame and the regrets of your own choices.
Yeah.
And Toria owned that. She said, Mom, you don't have to beat yourself up. You didn't make these choices. You taught me better.
Yeah.
I chose.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a mom because, like, if I could have done this, I could have done this. Maybe you wouldn't have these problems. Maybe you wouldn't have been raped. You wouldn't have been addicted. You wouldn't have. She said, Mom, stop it.
Right.
So it's like you both said loving yourself. Like, I wish that was a class in school.
Right?
We
talk about that all the time.
Coping
Emotions 101 needs to be a class.
It's like self-love. Because when you love yourself, you don't want to harm yourself. You don't want to put toxic things in your body. You don't want to be in bad relationships. Right?
Yeah.
But when you don't, you're like, well, who cares? I don't love myself anyway. So it's like, wow, if we could all just love ourselves more.
Right.
And coping skills is one of the things I talk about when I go talk to the kids. Like, you can cope with life at 14 or 15 or 16 years old, or you can cope with it when you're 50.
Right.
Eventually, the thing you're not coping with now is going to smack you in the face.
Right.
Exactly.
So why not cope with it now, and why not cope with it in a natural way that makes you feel good about what you're doing and loving yourself rather than medicating it and just kind of numbing it down.
And when you become addicted or wherever you started, if you started drugs at 14 or 16, your brain growth has kind of stopped or plateaued at that age. Yeah. So when you get clean,
Whoa. Go ahead.
That was a fall forward moment right there. Fall forward.
You are
Hudson, stop it.
Hudson
coming
did that.
back to you're coming back to that point where now you've made me lose my thought. But everything is going haywire. It's crazy. The kids.
See, they don't die. The kids, Victoria and Hudson are kicking things over. Thank you, Victoria and Hudson.
But just getting back to where they're at, they have to. They can get back very fast to the age they're at, but their brain growth stopped, and their maturity stopped, and their coping skills stopped at whatever age.
Yep.
So they'll catch up really fast, but understand that when you're trying to help someone, that they're like plateaued.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think all those are great things, and I think that when you stop developing a certain way and stop learning new coping skills and everything, and you found things that kind of work for the moment, doesn't mean they're going to work long term and stuff like that. So you guys are bringing up so many good points. Obviously, we could do 2 or 3, 4 shows on this, but we're getting to the end, and I want to get to the point of where we're going with this. So where does Victoria's life go from this?
I started a nonprofit called Teal Drops, and that's to end opioid abuse. I focus on 2 things. One is people in recovery and trying to help them and their parents and mothers that call me at all hours of the night. But I also am focusing on children, and I'm in the process with the Seagulls of creating a coloring book with a mascot. His name is Tank. It's a white bulldog that Toria painted. And we took that, and he is a character mascot that he will go around to the schools and give out coloring books with our pill pledge. And that's on the website, tealdrops.org. The pill pledge is not sharing your pills, destroying unused pills, locking meds. And this is for 1 to 100, because even grandparents I didn't
They
know
got
to
the
lock
best
my
stuff.
pills.
Grandparents got the
I
best
know.
stuff.
Yeah.
But you don't realize when your 5th grader is coming over to spend the night because you broke your hip, it's not because they want to hang out with grandma.
Right.
I can promise you that.
It's gold.
And they know. And they can take a picture of all your meds, and they can find out what your blood pressure medicine does, and what this does, and what are the side effects of this. How does this make you feel? They can take a picture of that bottle, and they can go in the bathroom and know in 5 minutes or less.
They Google
what?
everything.
Yes. And we didn't have that. But my generation doesn't know that. I broke my back and neck.
Right.
I was prescribed 90 Percocet a month. That's 10 milligrams a day.
Right. You still got them? No,
They're locked in the safe.
They're locked up. She took the
They're
pill.
locked
Yeah.
up.
Anything that says may cause drowsiness, by the way,
Yes.
that's it.
Yes. So and
Lock 'em
that's
up.
what the pill pledge is for.
Right.
It's just to teach you not to share your Adderall.
Yeah.
Kids on the bus don't need to share like
No.
in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. They can tongue these and get a candy bar for it because they can give it to the older kid.
Right.
So they know. We don't know,
Yeah.
but they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where to get an Adderall, but a 2nd grader probably would.
Yes.
So they can't even spell Adderall, but they know what they look like.
They know where they're at.
So what about Hudson? What's Hudson's life after this?
Well, Hudson left in his notebook he left, he wanted to start a nonprofit and call it Our Green Future. So we did that, ourgreenfuture.org. And we thought we were going to be saving the earth. Little did we know it's turned into all this other stuff that we're doing. And I told you I'm speaking at the schools, scheduling schools all the way across the United States. And what we've done is I took one of Hudson's tank tops and I turned it into a bag, like for a grocery store bag, because he couldn't stand single-use plastic.
Right.
And so I did that, and then that has turned into a campaign. It's called Tanks a Lot. The H in thanks is silent, H for Hudson, and silent for all the people that are suffering in silence. Because what we spoke about earlier is when people speak about it, it tends to be less of a dark thing inside their head when they actually get it out. So starting in January, when I go speak at the school, each of the kids donate one of their used tank tops to me, and then I give them back a bag filled with resources, bags of hope. So it's save a shirt, save a life, save the earth. And that's just part of his legacy. He did a speech called Fall Forward. And in the speech, he says, never, never give up, never give up. And so when I speak, I use his speech. And the ironic thing is he has a coloring book too. And it's Help Hudson, S-U-N, Save the World. And he's the son. And it was for his solar work that he was doing, because he would travel to schools and talk to 2nd graders, kindergartners about sustainability and climate change and all that. But the last page of his coloring book is love yourself, love the earth, love each other. So it's kind of the same. We're going to have to
And when I
merge our
speak,
coloring
and we're
books.
both doing books, and we're
gonna
both
be on a
doing
tour bus
buses
together.
We are, yes.
Blonde ambition.
That's right.
Girl power.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to color my hair blonde.
There you go.
And you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your blonde.
There you go, man.
Trinity.
I've been blonde
Gray is
before.
the new blonde.
Oh, that's right. You were blonde.
I was.
Yeah, I think when we met.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, and I also have a couple books I'm working on as well, just like you. And one is stories from, I say mothers, but parents. I just meet a lot of mothers that are out doing this
Yeah,
work.
it's mostly them.
Yeah, and parents who have lost a child, and their stories of inspiration. Because we could go down the dark rabbit hole of why and beat ourselves up and talk about the problems all day long. But Hudson would always say, focus on the solution. What's the solution?
Absolutely.
And the solution is to help
Change
other
the
kids,
stigma,
to help
yeah.
parents deal with this the way we have. Because even if it's not the way we lost our children, losing a child is still the most devastating thing in life. So to help other parents to get through this, when this first happened, someone said, doctor's probably going to want to put you on medication. I'm like, what? After what just happened to my son, you think I would take I won't even take an aspirin.
I won't either.
No,
I won't either. I'm in
nothing.
chronic pain, prescribed all these pills,
Yeah.
and I do not take
I won't
a
touch
thing.
anything. And, it's like I'm not going to get through this by numbing myself. I'm going to get through it by going through it and helping all these other people.
I do yoga for pain.
Me too.
Oh, jeez, here we go.
Yoga.
We are twins.
Well, you guys are connected.
Yes, we are.
Here's the thing. I think an important takeaway as well is all too often, and I know you said it. You said it a little bit differently, because that's the frame of reference of all you have is him up to that age. So when you say those are the best years of his life, is because that's the only reference is all you have.
Yeah.
But I want to take a piece of that as well, and I want to remind those of you in that time period of your life, because I say something sometimes that parents look at me and says, well, how can you even say that? And this is the comment. Those aren't the best years of your life.
Every year's best.
There's not the best years. Well, this is what I'm going to say. It's because, unfortunately, as parents, when we have kids, and, Trinity, you and I both have younger children. Some are older now. Mine are teenagers, and one is an adult, I guess, 19. But she's still a kid to me. But, I caution myself to never say these are the best years of your life to them. And here's why. Because when I was told that when I was young, and I was so miserable, nobody knew how miserable I was feeling. Nobody knew how much pain I was in. Because I faked it really well. I always joked around. I always had a smile on my face. And I always had stuff to play with. So I had things and a lot of fake, but I wasn't feeling well. So when people are saying these are the best years of your life, wait till you have bills, wait till you have, there's IRS, there's jobs, there's bosses, there's mortgages, and all the stuff, right, that adults suffer with. I felt like, well, if these are the best and these suck, well, then why do I want to stick around?
Right.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to make it as crazy and as wild and as enjoyable then because I thought adulthood was going to suck so bad.
Right.
Here's the message I want to tell you. Let me tell you what the best years of your life are. I look at my parents right now. I look at a man who went to Vietnam twice, who went through who knows what he's went through a lot of stuff. Right. And now he's the calmest, most coolest guy on the planet because he has a care in the world. And he's just enjoying my kids. He's enjoying my kids. The way he treated me compared to how he treats them, whole different ballgame. I don't know what happened to the command sergeant major that I grew up with, but that's not him.
Right.
Then my mother. My mother came from another country, worked her butt off in the government system as English, still struggles in English. Yeah, very much so. And for both of them English is their second language. And yet she went through all that stress of working 20 years in government or whatever, how many years that was. But now she's all relaxed. That brutal little 4-foot woman used to beat the crap out of me, grab me by my hair to punch me in the stomach. She was a tough little Nazi. She was Hitler. And now she's a loving, beautiful person that's enjoying being a grandma. So let me tell you, here's what I'm saying. The most beautiful years in your life, apparently,
our grandparents
are being a grandparent. Not when you're a kid, because as a grandparent, when you hit 70 plus, you don't have to give a damn about nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
apparently,
and you send them home
and you
after
could say anything. You could say anything. You could insult everybody, and everybody would just go, "It's just an old person. Let him alone."
Those are your golden years, man.
I want to be 70 now. That's the goal. I want to urinate on myself and say, "Who gives a damn? Come clean me." I don't need to even clean it up my damn self. Come. Change my diaper. I want to. That's like 90, I know, but whatever. But what I'm saying is it's only from the reference of where you're coming from, of how it feels. But the longer you live, the more references you have. I got to see kids being born. I got to have children. It gave me a whole new meaning to life that I didn't expect to have. To be a grandparent is going to give you a whole new meaning of life that you didn't expect to have. So here's the takeaway is that you're only coming from the point of reference that you have now. It doesn't mean that's tomorrow. But right now, you got to get through this moment however way that you can. Trinity, last words so we can close up.
No pressure, right?
Say anything.
No, I was just listening. I was taking it in.
I
a lot of stuff I obviously agree with and I echo constantly. For me, I think the biggest takeaway is, number one, I can't help but be impressed by both of them. They took something that's so emotional, but they found such a positive outlet that helps others. I think that's admirable, and it should be commended, obviously. But for me, I think one of the biggest takeaways is number one, we and we've said this numerous times, so I'm just going to repeat it, but everybody's got a perspective, and sometimes we have to get outside of our perspective to see it through somebody else's. You might not understand the plight of life that somebody else is going through, but they are going through it. And sometimes just let them know you're there, let them know you care, you understand. That kind of stuff is really, what's important.
Right.
I know. We're running out of time.
I know. So we got to go. So
Day
thank
by
you.
day.
Thank you.
That's right.
We got Victoria. We got Hudson. We got their moms, Susan and Chris. You want to know more about them? We'll post it. It'll be right here with us, their websites and everything like this. But for now, you know the deal. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.
Louis, thank you.
Get on the couch with the dope doctor. And that was without even a single drop of rum.
That was awesome.